Welcome to the third module on inspection. As inspectors, with daily face-to-face contact with boaters, you are the face of Colorado Parks and Wildlife, as well as the agency or employer that you represent. As such, you are expected to maintain a high level of professionalism at all times. The inspector's role is to perform inspections and decontaminations to prevent the spread of aquatic nuisance species on recreational watercraft and to educate the public. Regardless of who you work for, you are an authorized agent of Colorado Parks and Wildlife when certified to perform inspections. As such, you are expected to always act professionally and follow state procedures. Wear your assigned uniform and keep a clean appearance. Remain polite and courteous, even in difficult situations. Never remove equipment from the workplace or use it for anything other than intended. Show up to scheduled shifts on time or early and ready to work. The use of alcohol or drugs, including marijuana, will not be tolerated in the workplace. Do not bring any pets to work with you or leave them in your car. Please refer to your employee manual for a more complete list of expectations. There are many things that inspectors do not do. Here are a few of those activities. Please take good care of our equipment and return it at the end of the season. Notify your supervisor if something starts to break or goes missing. Uniforms are provided by your employer. It is expected that you wear them daily. You must wear your safety vest to ensure a safe workplace. Let's recall the basic propulsion systems. Trolling motors can be electric or gasoline and are used for moving quietly and slowly through the water. Outboard motors are attached to the transom of the boat and are housed entirely outside of the boat. Inboard, outboard, or IO, or stern drive engines have the lower unit outside of the boat while the engine itself is housed inside the boat. Inboard engines have the entire engine located inside the boat with only a prop and a prop shaft external to the boat. Jet engines intake water under the boat, which is then forced through an impeller and out of the jet that steers and powers the watercraft. The state of Colorado has defined 3 categories of boats. Regulation-exempt boats do not need to be inspected unless they launch from a trailer or have an engine or motor. Simple boats need to be inspected, as do complex boats. This is Parks and Wildlife Regulation number 800K, which defines vessel or other floating device. Vessel or other floating device means watercraft of any and all kinds, including their motors or engines, trailers, compartments, and any other associated equipment or containers that routinely or reasonably could be expected to contain or have come into contact with the water. This term does not include hand-launched and hand-powered rafts, kayaks, belly boats, float tubes, canoes, windsurfer boards, sailboards, paddle boards, inner tubes, or foldable plastic boats. These 10 watercraft listed under Regulation 800K make up our regulation-exempt boat list. Remember, not all hand-launched boats are exempt, only the 10 that are listed in Regulation 800K. Exempt boats lose their exemption if they launch from a trailer or if a motor or engine is added. Take a moment to review our watercraft risk table. Remember, the more complex the watercraft and the greater its ability to carry water, the greater the risk of transporting aquatic nuisance species. For the 2019 season, it is expected that all inspectors will make reasonable effort to check for sea strainers. Sea strainers are intended to keep solids from entering internal pumps such as engine and ballast pumps. They have the potential to inadvertently strain mussels from the water and trap them in the mesh strainer. Inspectors should ask boat owners if their vessel has any sea strainers on board and request they open them for inspection. Now, let's move on to the fun stuff. Inspections. Recall our 4 types of watercraft inspection and decontamination sites. Negative prevention waters are waters that have never had a verified detection of any ANS or have been delisted. Other ANS positive waters are waters that have a verified presence of an ANS listed in the Chapter 8 regulations other than zebra or quagga mussels. ZQM containment waters are waters that have had a verified zebra or quagga mussel detection. And off-water WIDs are authorized locations that are not at a lake or reservoir, such as offices and marine dealers. The goal of every inspection is to ensure that all boats are clean, drained, and dry in between launches. This means no water, no mud, no plants, and no animals. If boats are not moving any of these, we have significantly reduced, if not eliminated, the risk of carrying invasive species on recreational watercraft. Remember to educate every boater to clean, drain, and dry. Do not assume they know. So what are your priorities as an inspector? As an inspector, there will be times that there may be a lot of vehicle and boater traffic, inclement weather, and special machinery and equipment when you are performing decontaminations. Safety for yourself and the public is always the #1 priority. It is also of the utmost importance to educate the public about invasive species and how they can stop the spread of ANS by keeping their gear and boats clean and dry. Performing inspections and identifying which watercraft pose the highest risk is also very important to keep WIDs running efficiently and smoothly. Finally, draining water and decontamination may be required to eliminate the risk of transporting ANS. While it may be easy to assume that most boaters know about ANS and the Watercraft Inspection and Decontamination Program, it is important to take the time to ask them and explain the process. There may be instances in which you have returning boaters that you, the inspector, know very well. It is still important to remind every boater to clean, drain, and dry their boat and equipment after use. The goal is to have the boater be able to inspect and drain their own boat when launching or leaving waters without inspection stations. It is important to have the proper equipment available to be able to do good inspections and decontaminations. Some of the tools you should have at your site include data collectors, an LED flashlight, wire cutters, an inspection mirror, magnifiers, a digital camera, uniforms, writing utensils, and a sample collection kit. These should be provided by your employer. Please do not remove seal wire with your hands. You must use wire cutters to avoid lacerations from the wire. There are 3 primary types of inspection. Entrance inspections are performed on boats intending to launch. Exit inspections are performed on watercraft as they leave the water, and off-water inspections are performed at offices and business locations throughout the state. While performing inspections, you will be recording information such as the date and time, boat and trailer registration, and type of procedures performed. Most authorized locations are recording this information in an electronic data collector that allows for instant uploading of data into a CPW database. This database was developed by an inspector and piloted from 2009 to 2011. This initial version of the application cut down on paper waste and saved time and money from employees having to type in information by hand. In 2012, the ANS Utility Data Collection System was deployed successfully statewide. By collecting boat inspection records electronically and not on paper logs, the ANS program saved money being spent on data entry technicians to type the data into a database and gain great efficiencies on boat ramps. In 2014, the ANS program deployed WID Mobile. This mobile data collection system is usable on the Android and iOS operating systems and has greatly expanded the range at which we are able to employ this mobile data collection system. This system is now being used in Colorado, Arizona, Lake Tahoe, Montana, Nevada, New Mexico, Oregon, Utah, Washington, and Wyoming. The ANS Program Office anticipates additional regional expansion in the 2019 season. As you can see in this slide, the vast majority of inspection data being collected in Colorado is being reported through the WID mobile data collection system. It is expected that all watercraft inspection and decontamination sites will utilize WID mobile as their primary form of data collection during the 2019 season. Let's take a couple minutes and review how to set up WID mobile for your inspection location. Again, it is expected that all sites in Colorado will utilize the WID mobile application as their primary form of data collection during the 2019 season. The WID log form should only be used as a backup in case the data collector at your site is not working. Now, let's move on to receipts. Colorado uses a seal and receipt system so that a boater can show proof of prior inspection. The state utilizes a green seal that locks the boat to the trailer. This assures the inspector that the boat has not launched since the seal was last applied. This green seal, accompanied by a receipt, helps communicate across jurisdictions by documenting what level of inspection or decontamination was previously performed. It also allows authorized locations that are not located at a lake or reservoir to show proof of inspection. Seals shall be applied in a very specific manner. Be sure to attach the seal between the bow eye and a hard welded part of the trailer so it can't be removed and put back without breaking. So when does a boat get a seal? Boats will be sealed with a matching receipt if they leave a containment reservoir and pass an inspection or decontamination, if it leaves a prevention reservoir and passes an exit inspection or decontamination, or if it comes to an office or business WID and passes either an inspection or decontamination. All sites must strive to do exit inspections and issue seals with receipts to 100% of exiting watercraft. While the goal is 100% of watercraft getting seals with receipts on exit, there are minimum standards set that WIDs will be expected to achieve. Prevention negative sites with pre-inspection must provide exit inspections with seals and receipts to at least 80% of exiting boats. Prevention negative sites without pre-inspection must provide exit inspections with seals and receipts to at least 90% of boats. Other ANS positive waters must provide exit inspections with seals and receipts to at least 90% of boats. And ZQM containment waters must provide exit inspections with seals and receipts to 100% of exiting watercraft. We have two different types of receipts that accompany our seals. First, white receipts are issued at sites that are considered negative for all aquatic nuisance species. Second, blue receipts are issued at sites that are considered positive for aquatic nuisance species. All green seals must be accompanied by a matching receipt. Green seals from prevention waters will be accompanied by a white receipt. All of the information in boxes should be filled out so that a boater cannot tamper with the receipt. There is a note section to fill in any important information for the next inspector. Boats that were sealed leaving a containment reservoir will be accompanied by a blue receipt. The boater will be asked if they are returning to that same reservoir or if they plan on launching the boat elsewhere. This is important information to determine if the boat will need to be decontaminated. Some state parks have a pre-inspection policy in place. Blue containment receipts are only valid for pre-inspection if they are returning to the same location. When explaining green seals to the public, there are a few things to keep in mind. Green does not mean boaters can launch without being inspected. A green seal and receipt together is proof that the boat was inspected and has not launched since then. Boaters still need to stop at the inspection station to have the seal and receipt verified. In some cases, the inspector may need to inspect the boat again if they find water or the boat is not clean. However, keeping a clean and dry boat will help boaters get on the water faster. Let's review our green seal removal flowchart for 2019. It is important to note that there is one significant change from the green seal removal flowchart of years past. In previous seasons, if the seal indicated the watercraft had been out of the water for more than 30 days, we asked about live aquatic bait, followed the bait rules, thanked the boater, and allowed them to launch. For 2019, this 30-day criteria has been removed from the green seal removal flowchart. It is very important that all inspectors follow the 2019 protocol. Now, let's go through some of the different scenarios you may encounter in regards to a green seal. First, does the boater have a green seal properly applied that has not been tampered with? If the answer is yes, check for a receipt. If they have a receipt, review the receipt and determine if one of the following is true. Are they returning to the same place, or has the boat been decontaminated? If one of these is true, ask about live bait, follow the bait rules, thank the boater, and allow them to launch. What if the boater doesn't have a receipt to accompany their seal? If the boater does not have a receipt to accompany the seal, we must check the seal to determine if it is from the same location or from a negative water. If the seal is from the same location or from a negative water, educate the boater to keep the receipt, ask about bait, follow the bait rules, thank the boater, and allow them to launch. If the seal is not from the same location and not from a negative water, we must ask ourselves another question. Is the seal from an other ANS water that is positive for the exact same ANS that is in the water body the boater is entering? If the ANS species is present in the water where the boater intends to launch, then ask about bait, follow the bait rules, thank the boater, and allow them to launch. If the seal is from an other ANS positive water that does not have the same ANS that is in the water body the boater is entering, then we must perform an inspection. Check for standing water and plants, follow our standing water rules, determine if the watercraft has any standing water or unverifiable water. If anything is found during this inspection, we must perform a decontamination. If nothing is found, ask about live bait, follow the bait rules, thank the boater, and allow them to launch. Now, let's go back to the beginning. Does the boat have a green seal properly applied that has not been tampered with? If yes, check for a receipt. Verify the information on the receipt and determine if one of the following is true. Are they returning to the same place, or has the boat been decontaminated? If the answer to these two questions is no, refer to the color of the receipt. If the receipt is white, this indicates that the boat last launched on a negative prevention water. Ask about live aquatic bait, follow bait rules, thank the boater, and allow them to launch. If the receipt is blue, this indicates that the boat last launched on a body of water that is positive for some sort of ANS. Again, we must ask ourselves, is the seal from an other ANS water that is positive for the exact same ANS that is present in the water body the boater is entering? If the ANS is already present in the water where the boater intends to launch, ask about bait, follow the bait rules, thank the boater, and allow them to launch. If the ANS is not present in the location where the boater intends to launch, check for standing water and plants, follow standing water rules, check for any standing water or unverifiable water, and if anything is found, perform a decontamination. Please take a moment to review the 2019 green seal removal flowchart in its entirety. Again, please make sure that you are following the 2019 protocols for this upcoming boating season. It is recommended that each inspection station keep a current copy of the green seal removal flowchart on site for your reference. It is very likely that you will see other colored seals from other states and from a few municipalities within Colorado. Refer to the table in the training manual for a more complete list of seal colors and locations. If a boat arrives with a different colored seal, it must go through an inspection as though it had no seal. See the chart in your textbook that describes other seals in use. Now, let's move on to our step-by-step inspection procedures. Entrance inspections are performed prior to a boat launching on the water and is the same procedure regardless of where you work. Each inspection varies in time depending on the type and complexity of the boat. You will use your data collector for each and every inspection. Entrance inspections require you to look and feel for aquatic nuisance species. Let's go over the entrance inspection process step by step. This is the most important thing in this module. Step 1, and our number one priority, is safety. Ensure personal and public safety by asking the boater to put the car in park, set the parking brake, turn off the ignition, and step out of the vehicle to assist with the inspection process. Step 2 is to introduce yourself and provide a brief introduction to the inspection process and the reason you are performing the inspection. Inform the boater you are looking for zebra and quagga mussels and other invasive plants and animals. Provide the boater a brochure and remember to mention clean, drain, and dry. Step 3 is to perform your initial assessment. Record on your data collector if the boat is launching or exiting, the boat type, boat registration, trailer license plate, ANS stamp information, and the boat propulsion type. An important new step in the initial assessment process is recording information regarding the ANS stamp. For the 2019 season, if the watercraft has a current 2019 Colorado registration, inspectors should document that the watercraft has a current ANS stamp. If the watercraft has a Colorado registration prior to 2019, or if the watercraft is registered out of state, the inspector will need to ask if the boater has their 2019 ANS stamp. If they do not, please provide them with an ANS stamp brochure and record No on the ANS stamp box on the data collector. It is very important that we collect accurate information on ANS stamp compliance in 2019. Remember, the ANS stamp is intended to provide a stable funding source for the ANS program for years to come. Now that we've recorded the initial information, you need to determine if the watercraft is high or low risk. In other words, what is the risk that this particular boat is carrying aquatic nuisance species? Please pay close attention. This is a change in protocol from previous years. It is very important that inspectors are familiar with current protocol and implement it consistently in the field. Low-risk boats are defined as those with a green seal and a matching receipt returning to the same location, a green seal and a matching receipt from a negative location, or a green seal and a matching blue receipt from a location that has the same ANS as the inspecting location. If a boat is determined to be of low risk, perform a seal removal, ask about live aquatic bait, thank the boater, and allow them to launch. High-risk boats are defined as those that do not have a seal with a matching receipt, have a seal that is not from Colorado, have a seal that is not green from a jurisdiction within Colorado, or have a seal and matching blue receipt from a location with different ANS. High-risk boats will require a full inspection to ensure they are not carrying aquatic nuisance species. For high-risk boats, you will need to determine their recent boating history. There are 2 questions that you should ask. 1. Has the boat launched out of state in the last 60 days? If so, where? 2. Where has the boat launched in the last 60 days? It's very important that you ask both of these questions to determine accurate boating history. All waters that are mentioned by the operator should be recorded in the last waters visited field on your data collector. Once entered, the application will indicate if any of these waters are known to have any ANS species present. It is also important to note that the boating history questionnaire has been expanded to 60 days. This is a significant change in protocol from previous seasons. Step 6 is checking for live aquatic bait. You should ask about live aquatic bait as part of each and every inspection. We will cover the live aquatic bait protocol later in this module. Step 7 is perform the visual and tactile inspection utilizing the HEAD acronym. H is inspect the entire hull and trailer and have the boater pull the bilge plug if not already done. E is inspect the engine or motor and transom carefully with a flashlight. Always have the lower unit lowered to ensure it is properly drained. A is inspect the anchor and all other equipment. D is inspect the interior and drain all standing water from compartments and the bilge. When inspecting the hull and trailer, be sure to look and feel for ANS. Have the boater pull the bilge plug while you are conducting this step. Inspect through-hull fittings, trailer bunks, tire wells, and lights. Be sure to remove any plant fragments that may be present. When inspecting the engine, have the boater lower the outboard or lower unit to ensure that it is properly drained. Check the transom and gimbal areas closely with a flashlight. These are areas that mussels greatly prefer to attach. When draining engines, inspectors must ensure the motor is moved to the vertical position to drain water from the engine to the best of their ability. Have the boater tilt the engine to vertical. Ensure they do not start the engine and that the engine does not make contact with the ground. Motors must be drained for all inspections. Inspectors should also ask to see the anchor and any other equipment that could come in contact with the water. Visually inspect for water, mud, plants, or other ANS. Ensure that all equipment is clean and dry or decontaminate. Interior compartments need to be inspected and drained or decontaminated if they contain water. Always ask permission to board the vessel and follow behind the boater to prevent injury. The boater must physically open compartments for inspectors to check for water. While checking interior compartments, inspectors should ask the boat operator if they are aware of any sea strainers on board. Sea strainers are commonly found in the engine bay, in the bilge area, and under the seats. Any sea strainers that are present should be removed by the boater and checked for mud, plants, water, and animals. Please do not overlook this important step. When concluding your inspection, remind the boater to replace their bilge plug and to raise the motor. Ensure that any other inspectors are finished and that everyone is clear of the boat and the transport vehicle prior to launch. Remind the boater to get an exit inspection and a green seal and thank them for their time. Be sure to submit your data collector record when finished. Now that we have covered the step-by-step entrance inspection protocol, let's take a couple minutes to cover the entrance inspection data collection procedure. now that we have gone over the entrance inspection protocol as well as the data collection procedure, let's watch a video of the ideal inspection.
Watercraft inspections are a proven method to stop the spread of zebra and quagga mussels and other invaders. Because overland travel on boats and trailers is the primary vector for spreading aquatic invasive species, boat inspections and decontaminations are critical to protect waters from an irreversible infestation that could threaten recreational opportunities and cause expensive and irreparable damage to ecosystems, water-related infrastructure, and local economies. This video will show you how to perform a watercraft entrance inspection. By following these steps, infested boats can be intercepted and decontaminated prior to launching. This inspection protocol also serves as a key public education and awareness component. Because watercraft inspectors cannot be placed at every boat ramp in the state, teaching boaters how to inspect their own vessels is critical to protect our waters and to ensure the long-term success of this program. When a boat arrives at the inspection station, greet the boater by introducing yourself. Ask the driver to set their parking brake, put the vehicle in park, and turn off the ignition. The driver should step out of the vehicle and assist with the inspection. Provide a brief explanation of the inspection process and the reason for performing the inspection. Inform the boater that you are looking for zebra or quagga mussels or other invasive plants or animals. Be sure to give them a brochure with additional information. Remember to tell the boater that you are also making sure that their watercraft is clean, drained, and dry before launching. Record information about the watercraft in either the mobile application or the paper activity log. Be sure to enter the watercraft's registration number and trailer license plate. If the boat is new and does not have a registration number, record the whole number or HIN. Note if the boat is coming in or going out and the type of craft. If the boat has a seal, check to make sure the receipt matches and follow the procedures for applying or removing seals. If the boat does not have a valid seal and receipt, you must begin the inspection by interviewing the boater to determine if the vessel poses a high risk of introducing invasive species. There are 2 questions that you must ask to determine risk. First, ask if the watercraft has been launched out of state in the last 30 days.
Sir, is this boat launched out of state in the last 30 days?
No, it is not.
Next, ask where the boat has launched in the last 30 days.
Where has this boat launched in the last 30 days?
Listen carefully and note if any of the waters mentioned are suspect or are listed as positive for mussels or other invasive species. Do not combine these questions or you will miss a critical risk factor, since many states have lakes and reservoirs with the same name. Because species like zebra and quagga mussels can survive out of water for up to 30 days, establishing when and where a vessel has launched is critical to determine risk. Record if the watercraft is complex and if it is dirty, crusty, or slimy. These factors also increase risk. Next, it's important to physically inspect the watercraft for standing water. Be sure to ask the boater if they are carrying live aquatic bait. If so, follow the live bait protocols. Also check to see if the watercraft has ballast tanks. Because ballast tanks cannot be drained, seen, or physically inspected, you must follow the standing water protocols. Next, perform the visual and physical inspection of the boat. The acronym HEAD can help you remember the systematic process for inspecting watercraft. H is for hull and trailer. E is for engine. A is for anchor. And D is for drain. Begin by inspecting the hull and trailer on the port side of the bow and move toward the stern. look and feel for any sandpaper-like bumps or any other signs of invasives. If at any point zebra or quagga mussels or other invasive species are suspected, a high-risk inspection and a full decontamination are required. Repeat this process on the starboard side of the hull and trailer from stern to bow. Use a flashlight for dark spaces and a mirror for areas that are difficult to see. Once the hull and trailer have been inspected, physically and visually inspect the bilge plug and bilge area using a flashlight. If applicable, have the boater activate the bilge pump. Complete the exterior inspection by checking the transom, including any instruments that are attached. Ask the boater to lower the engine and verify that it has been drained. Inspect the engine using a flashlight to see dark hidden places where mussels like to attach. Pay particular attention to the intakes, motor mount, and gimbal. Next, ask for permission to board the watercraft. Have the boater enter first and safely follow them inside. Ask the boater to take out the anchor and anchor rope or chain. Be sure to examine these carefully since they come in contact with the bottom of the lake where invasive mussels are typically found. Next, inspect interior compartments to verify that they are dry. Begin at the bow and work toward the stern. Ask the boater to open compartments that hold water, including live wells or bait wells, and any compartments that hold equipment. Be sure to examine and feel life jackets, buoys, paddles, ropes, nets, and drift socks, and ensure that all items are clean and dry. If standing water is found in any compartment and the boater claims to have launched only in negative waters, remove standing water from the watercraft using a pump, sponge, or towel. If the watercraft cannot be drained or was previously launched in positive waters, follow standing water protocols and perform a decontamination. Once the inspection is finished, remind the boater to reinsert the bilge plug and raise the engine. Encourage the boater to get an exit inspection and explain how having a seal and receipt will allow them to launch more quickly when they return. Thank the boater for their cooperation and allow them to launch. Finalize the inspection by submitting the record in the mobile application or on the paper activity log.
Remember, mussels prefer to settle on rough areas or right-angled locations. They are light sensitive and prefer dark colors. They will be located below the waterline or in compartments that hold water, as they cannot survive long-term out of the water. Your focus should be on areas like these when conducting inspections. Now, let's move on to exit inspections. Exit inspections are performed when the boat is leaving the lake or reservoir. It continues to utilize the HEAD acronym. This is the minimum required to receive a green seal and receipt when leaving a water, and provides an opportunity to educate boaters, ensure the vessel hull and anchor are clean, ensure the vessel is drained, and encourage additional cleaning and drying. When performing exit inspections, remind the boater to leave the bilge plug out during transport to ensure more drainage from the bilge and to dry their equipment at home. If at any point during an exit inspection ANS is found, a decontamination should be performed. Also be sure to verify the accuracy of your data entry and thank the boater for their time and cooperation. Now, let's review the protocols for exit inspections at containment waters. Exit inspections at containment waters are mandatory per Parks and Wildlife regulation. All water must be fully drained out and/or decontaminated if the boat is headed to a different or an unknown location. If the boater is returning to the same location, then the boat must be drained to the best of the inspector's ability. The goal for watercraft exiting ZQM containment reservoirs is to be drained, and if it cannot be fully drained, then to perform a standing water decontamination. No water in, no water out. In some cases, a standing water decontamination will be mandatory when exiting ZQM containment waters. If the boat has ballast tanks, an inboard-outboard or inboard engine, these must be giving a standing water decontamination if the boat is headed to a different location. Keep in mind that if a boat arrives at a prevention location from containment or unknown location with ballast tanks, inboard-outboard, or inboard engine, they must perform a standing water decontamination of these areas prior to launch. Again, it is mandatory that boats leaving containment waters receive an inspection per regulation. Other ANS positive waters shall provide clean, drain, and dry exit inspections to at least 90% of watercraft and will issue green seals along with blue receipts. Decontaminations will not be required at the source water unless an ANS is found or suspected, and blue receipts will only be valid for pre-inspection at the same site at which they were issued. Let's conclude this section on exit inspections by going over the exit inspection data collection procedure. Let's cover off-water inspections. Off-water inspections primarily occur at office or business locations. They are intended for boaters who want to seal but are not intending to launch. The off-water inspection is a hybrid of the entrance and exit inspection, where a full entrance inspection is performed and a seal is applied. Additionally, off-water inspections should include a note on the receipt indicating the last water visited. Regardless of the type of inspection, when inspecting a personal watercraft, there are special considerations that need to be made. First, have the owner or operator remove the cover in front of the handlebars and seat over the motor during inspections. Very often, these areas contain standing water. Then, have the operator remove the bilge plugs on either side of the steering nozzle to ensure proper drainage. Check the intake grate on the bottom of the hole for mussels, plants, mud, etc. And then have the owner start the PWC. Stand clear and ask the owner to rev the engine 2 to 3 times. This ensures the cooling and exhaust systems are free of water. If any water is expelled from the jet when they rev the engine, the PWC will require decontamination. Hopefully we have conveyed that boats carrying standing water pose a huge biological risk of transporting aquatic nuisance species. Mussel veligers, juveniles, pathogens, and plant seeds or fragments can be carried in this water. This is why all boats should be drained out in between launches or decontaminated. The only exception to this rule is if a boat with ballast tanks, IO, or inboard engine has been drained to the best of your ability and issued a green seal and receipt and is launching at another prevention water. In this course, we talk about 2 different types of water. Verifiable water is water that you can visually see and inspect for, such as water found in live wells. Unverifiable water is water that you cannot see, feel, or visually inspect for. This water is most commonly found in ballast tanks, inboard-outboard, and inboard engines. Let's review the standing water rules. Rule number 1. Boats from containment or unknown locations. If the watercraft has been in positive, infested, or unknown waters and was not decontaminated upon exit and has any standing water, it is mandatory to send the watercraft to decontamination. Rule number 2. Boats with verifiable water. Watercraft that are not green sealed from prevention waters must be clean, drained, and dry. Sponge, pump, or towel out standing water or decontaminate prior to allowing launch. Rule number 3. Boats with unverifiable water. Again, unverifiable water can be found in ballast, inboards, and inboard-outboard engines. Boats with no green seal and receipt that have unverifiable water must get a standing water decontamination. Boats with a green seal and receipt that are returning to the same location do not require decontamination, and boats with a green seal and receipt moving between Colorado prevention locations must be clean, drained, and dry and do not require decontamination. Run the ballast and bilge pump until no water comes out. Now, let's cover live aquatic bait. Regulation number 803M. If a vessel or other floating device contains bait in water, then the owner or operator will be required to produce a receipt for the bait from a Colorado bait dealer with a date clearly printed on the receipt and the date is no more than 7 days previous. Bait fish regulations. Use or possession of live fish as bait is prohibited east of the Continental Divide above 7,000 feet. Use or possession of live fish as bait is prohibited west of the Continental Divide, except at Navajo Reservoir. Live bait fish is not allowed to be transported unless it was purchased from an authorized Colorado dealer. Any bait fish being caught in the wild must be used in the same body of water in which it was caught and is not allowed to be transported to different water or stored for later use. This does not apply to the Arkansas River below Pueblo and the 6 counties included therein, including John Martin Reservoir State Park. The live transport of crayfish is prohibited in parts of Colorado. All crayfish caught west of the Continental Divide or from Sanchez Reservoir State Wildlife Area must be immediately killed by removing the head from the thorax and taken into possession, or immediately returned to the water from which they were taken. It's very important that you know the rules for live aquatic bait at your site. If you have any site-specific questions, please ask your site supervisor. Before and after every launch, you must ask the boater if they have live aquatic bait on board. This is because bait water can harbor mussel veligers or diseases like whirling disease or viral hemorrhagic septicemia, which are 2 deadly fish diseases. Also, the bait itself could be an invasive species such as a rusty crayfish or an Asian carp. If a boater has live aquatic bait, you must ask for a valid Colorado receipt. If they have a valid receipt dated within 7 days, allow the boater to launch with the bait as is. If the boater produces a valid receipt that is more than 7 days old, then you must perform a bait treatment, which will be discussed in the decontamination module. If they do not have a receipt for the bait in question, you must do a bait treatment of the water, and the boater must dispose of the bait in a garbage somewhere away from the water body. Out-of-state bait is never allowed. If the boater has bait from out of state, you must decontaminate the container, and the boater must dispose of the bait in the garbage away from the water. Now, let's move on to reporting. If you find or think you have found a mussel boat, you should call your immediate supervisor to notify them. They will then notify the State Invasive Species Coordinator. Specimens should be collected and sent to the CPW A&S Program Office Lab within 24 hours of collecting the specimen. We will go into much greater detail when we cover decontamination. If you have found or suspect you have found zebra or quagga mussels or other A&S, do not allow the boater to leave with mussels or other A&S attached to the vessel. We need to report, document, collect, and decontaminate. Please don't hesitate to call law enforcement if you need assistance. Last but not least, let's talk briefly about the State Parks Pre-Inspection Program. If the A&S inspection station is open, boats must get inspected. If the A&S inspection station is not open, boats must show proof of prior inspection. Boaters cut off and place their seal and receipt in the drop box and fill out the log. Blue receipts are only valid for pre-inspection at the location where they were issued. Park rangers and A&S inspectors compare boats on the lake and trailers in the parking lot with the contents of the drop box and logs. Discrepancies shall be investigated. Violators can be intercepted on the water or as they come off the water and will be cited. We must be vigilant with pre-inspection. It is an important part of our A&S program. Thank you for your time, attention, and continued vigilance in protecting Colorado's waters from aquatic nuisance species. Together, we have shown that a consistently implemented watercraft inspection and decontamination program can succeed in keeping Colorado's waters free of zebra and quagga mussels. This concludes Module 3 on inspection. Please complete the Module 3 exam and proceed to Module 4 on decontamination.